now. Paul Mack here. I hope you're doing fine. You know, part of farming is handling animals, sometimes large animals. And two basic tools for handling animals are the halter and the lead rope so that you can lead them around. The halter is basically just, it's got a buckle on it, and you can put the nose of the animal goes in here, and this goes around the back of the head, and then it buckles in like that. Very, very comfortable on the animal. And then with a lead rope that has a hook on it, usually a swivel hook on it, you attach that to the ring or the metal clip on the side of the nose, and you can lead that animal around. So the halter and the lead rope. But today, I want to talk to you about my favorite farm tool, the rope halter, which is a combination of the halter and the lead rope, the rope halter. Now the rope halter is completely adjustable. You've got a nose piece here which can be adjusted looser or tighter, and then you've got the head piece here that also can be adjusted loosely and tightly. And then the rest of the rope is just the lead rope section of it. So it's a very versatile thing. Basically a one size fits all, or mostly all. This is kind of a big one for a larger animal, bull or big old cow. Basically one size fits all halter combination lead rope, the rope halter. Now my cows, normally I have a chain around their neck with a bell on the chain, and I can usually, they're gentle enough that I can walk up to them and grab that bell chain and just lead them around wherever I want them to go. And sometimes I put a nylon halter on them, and I can leave that nylon halter on them for longer periods of time. But there are times where you may need to lead that animal where that animal does not want to go. For instance, into a trailer. If you're loading them in a trailer, sometimes animals, cows, horses, mules, are a little bit skittish about going where they don't want to go, for instance, in a trailer. And so this is a little bit better option for an animal that might be a little balky or resistant to going where you want them to go. The downside of a typical halter, whether it be a leather halter or a nylon halter, is that it is so comfortable on the animal that if they're balky or resistant, it's so comfortable that they feel like they can pull back, and it's not uncomfortable to them to pull back and to resist whatever you want to do. And therein lies the beauty of the rope halter, because it tends to put pressure on them, and the harder they pull, the harder that this rope feels, and it puts pressure on their nose. I know that both cattle and horses don't like that pressure on their nose, and so this being a little more abrasive, if it's an animal that's used to a halter, has been halter broke, which we'll talk about that some other day. If it's an animal that's at least halter broke, they're a lot less resistant to pull back and to be balky on you, especially if you're training calves, which I'll talk about in a moment. A rope halter can be made really of any size rope. Basically what you need for this style of rope halter, you're going to need a 3-strand rope of whatever kind, and it can be a large one. This one's a little bigger than I wanted, but that's all the hardware store had at the time I went in. I like something maybe a little bit smaller than that. I've got a small rope. We're going to make one out of this smaller rope, but it's the same principle. This is 3-strand, this is 3-strand. It's just a size difference. And you can make these out of 3-strand, I guess they make 3-strand nylon, I don't know. They make 3-strand cotton, which is, a little less abrasive. But I like this, the hemp style rope, natural fiber style rope, because it's more abrasive, and that's kind of what you don't want to hurt them or make them you want to make them slightly uncomfortable so that they'll do what you want. But, you don't want to hurt them. It's not like you're going to rub a blister on them in the short time that you're using them. So the hemp style rope is what I prefer to make the rope halters out of. And keep in mind, these halters can be used on, any small livestock, larger livestock, goats, sheep, or whatever probably not a rabbit, but and certainly not a chicken, and probably not a hog. They're two, hogs are a completely different story. Anyway, you can make a small rope halter, especially I use them for calves, goats, sheep, whatever you want. I like to use these rope halters, especially when I'm breaking a calf to lead. I raise milk cows, and the byproduct of having milk cows is 1 calf per cow per year if everything goes well. And on the male calves, we raise up for slaughter. So I may halter train them, just so that I'll be able to load them later. But for the heifer calves, I like to train them, halter break them, so that when I sell them to somebody who's potentially going to milk them, they're very gentle. They don't fight the rope, and you can lead them anywhere you want to go. But part of the process is training that young calf for a lead rope. And so the rope halter is very good for that, because when you first put a halter on a calf, it resists it. It fights it. It puts its haunches out like this, and it just won't go anywhere. And you have to wait it out. You put pressure on that rope, and they don't like that pressure. They don't like their head being bent like this and standing like this for any amount of time. And pretty soon, you have to wait them out. You put pressure on it, and as soon as they take a step forward, you slack up on that pressure, and then they learn, hey, if I take a step forward, he slacks up on it, so maybe I should step forward every time I feel pressure. And over a period of days and maybe a few weeks, that calf, you can lead it anywhere you want to, and that's halter breaking a calf. But the rope halter, very, very useful for halter breaking those calves. And when I'm making a rope halter, I like to use a rope of about 12 feet, not really any shorter, because when I tie that calf up, I don't want it so short that it can't lower its head to a feed trough or whatever, or if it happened to trip and fall, I don't want it to hang itself on whatever I've tied it to. So I want it long enough that if it fell, it's not going to hurt the calf, but I also don't want it so long that I have to coil up a whole lot of rope, and I'm carrying like 10 pounds of rope when I'm just leading a little calf around. So about 12 foot is about right for your length of rope when you're making a rope halter. So let's make one. So to do that, we'll take this small section of rope right here, and I'm going to start on this end of the rope. And as you can see, I've whipped this end of the rope, actually both ends of the rope, with tape here so that they don't fray out. You can use electrical tape or duct tape or whatever you want, or you can traditionally whip it with waxed string if you have any. And for a smaller goat or a calf, I can go about to my elbow there. If it's a larger animal, like the big rope halter I've got here, maybe to the midpoint here. But about right here, you want to hold that spot right there, and you want to open up the loops so that you've got one loop over by itself. The other two loops are right here. And what you'll do is feed the short end of the rope back through that single loop right there and pull it up, and you pull it up just tight enough that the loop that you leave right there is about the diameter of the rope itself, because eventually the long end of the rope is going to go through there. So you don't want it too loose, and you don't want it too tight that you can't get it in there. You want it about, in this instance, about the size of my little finger, about like that right there. And then on the short side of the loop right here, you open up the coils again, and you expose another single coil of rope. It doesn't matter which one. You expose that one, and then you take the long end of the rope, the other end, and you feed it through this loop right there, that little coil right there. And you pull this one all the way until it locks in place. Now you have basically locked this loop in place so that it won't move. It's kind of permanent now. Now keep in mind, this section right here is what's going to go under the chin of the animal. You go to the short end of the rope, and you open up all three coils here, and you bend them around until you form kind of a clover leaf thing right here. You got this loop, you bend this one around this way, and you bend this one around this way, kind of like that, and you see you kind of got three loops, if you can see that, three little loops right there. And then once again, you take the long end of the rope, the other end of the rope, and you feed it through each of these three loops, one loop at a time. That one, and then this one, and then this one here. So now you can see it's fed through all three loops, 1, 2, 3, and you pull the long end of the rope almost all the way, And basically you have now formed the nose piece. This is the nose piece for the halter right there. Nose goes there. Now you take the long end of the rope and you feed it back through the loop that you locked in place to begin with right here. Feed it through there, and that forms the head piece right here. So you've got the nose piece and then the head piece, both of which are adjustable. So it's one size fits all. You could fit a little goat or a calf like that, or a larger, if you need a larger cow or bull, like this. So, and thus we have created my favorite farm tool, the adjustable one-size-fits-all rope halter for any large or small livestock. One other thing you can do on the end here, you can buy these hooks to go on them. They're little swivel hooks that swivel around so that the animal can't twist the rope up too bad. And there's this style that does that, and then there's this style that kind of has the little latch right there. One good thing to note is if you can find a latch or a hook that the rope goes through easily, that way you can tie these on kind of like, use this little cool knot right here, go in like that, and then bring this part up. And if you got some duct tape or electrical tape, or you can lash it, once again, lash it back to itself so that that doesn't come untied, and that forms a pretty good knot right there. And what I was saying is if this hook is a large enough diameter, it's very easy that if you have a post or something in your barn or your stall, and you can go around that post or that fence post or whatever, and then latch it back on itself if you're temporarily, tying up an animal. Which, if you're, teaching training a calf on the lead rope and you want to leave her tied, which is a good idea while you're milking the cow. Sometimes I'll hook it to the, large gauge panel there in the lot or around a pole, like I said. But that's very handy to have that, swivel hook on the end. Or you can just leave it bare if you know a few good knots and you like the cowboy style of hitching up your animal. So I guess that about does it for my favorite farm tool, the rope halter. If you have anything to add to the discussion of a rope halter, or maybe you've got your own style of rope halter and you can describe it, which would be quite a trick, feel free. Describe it in the comment section below. I love reading those, and I know everyone else finds them just as helpful and fun to read as I do. Until next time, I'm Paul Mack with my favorite farm tool, the rope halter. I'll talk at you later.